Today I'm going to talk about why many psychologists find psychological tests to be invalid or unreliable and why some choose not to rely on them at all. I'll be using the self-esteem test from psychologytoday.com as an example. While psychological tests are widely used, there are several reasons for skepticism about their accuracy, relevance, and clinical settings. First, let's talk about validity. Validity refers to when a test actually measures what it claims to measure. In the case of self-esteem, many online tests, like the one I found, claim to assess a person's overall self-worth, but the problem is many of these tests don't have strong scientific backing. The self-esteem test I found doesn't offer any data on whether it has been tested against more established self-esteem measures, like the Rosberg self-esteem scale. This raises questions about its concurrent validity. We don't know if the results of this test align with other validated assessments. Additionally, predictive validity, which shows how well a test can predict future behaviors or outcomes, is often lacking. The self-esteem test asks questions like, I feel worthy just like other people, but there's no way to know whether someone's responses to these questions can predict things like academic performance or relationship success. Without solid data, the test remains a self-reflection tool rather than a reliable diagnostic measure. Another reason many psychologists don't use these types of assessments is because they can be time-consuming and expensive. Comprehensive assessments like the MMPI or Rorschach require specialized training that can take hours to administer and interpret. This makes them less practical for clinicians who are trying to balance multiple clients. Additionally, purchasing these tests can be costly, and many smaller practices may not have the resources to invest in expensive assessment tools, especially if they aren't covered by insurance. In contrast, shorter, cheaper online tests might seem more appealing, but they come with their own problems. Like the lack of reliability and validity I mentioned, many psychologists find that they can achieve similar or better results through clinical intuition or direct conversation with clients, without needing these lengthy, expensive assessments. This leads me to the role of clinical intuition. Many psychologists argue that their experience and understanding of human behavior allow them to make accurate judgments without the need for formal tests. Clinical intuition can be flexible, fast, and tailored to the individual. While tests like the self-esteem test offer standardized questions that may not capture the complexity of a person's psychological state, for example, a question like, I am mostly satisfied with myself, that offers a binary response, agree or disagree, but self-esteem is much more nuanced and experienced than that. It can fluctuate based on context, relationship, and life events. Many psychologists prefer to explore these topics in depth during therapy sessions rather than relying on a rigid set of questions. Finally, many psychological tests are criticized for being culturally biased. Tests often reflect the values and norms of the culture they were developed in, which can lead to inaccurate results for people from different backgrounds. For example, the self-esteem test, the question, I feel attractive much of the time, might not resonate the same across different cultures, where beauty standards vary all the time. What's considered attractive in one society may not hold the same weight in another, which could skew the results and make the test less valid for people from diverse backgrounds. In conclusion, while psychological tests can be useful in certain situations, many psychologists don't rely on them because of issues with validity, time, cost, and potential bias. Instead, they often prefer to use their own intuition and clinical experience to understand their clients better. If you're taking an online test like the self-esteem test, it's important to remember that it's not a substitute for professional assessment, and it should be used as a simple self-reflection tool rather than a clinical diagnosis.